Hello and welcome to Channel 51 Independent News. Channel51.com.au is where you go, jasonqcitizen.substack.com. Well, let's get into the headlines for this Thursday, the 31st of July. Experts are weighing in on the under-16s social media ban, pointing out potential failures. Meanwhile, Senator Ralph Babet has followed up on his motion's success with a second inquiry announcement. Kash Patel discovers thousands of documents related to classified Durham Report on the Russiagate in burn bags. John Solomon announces that Senator Chuck Grassley will release a Durham Annex showing the FBI knew of the Russiagate hoax. The FDA is redesigning the food pyramid amidst an ultra-processed food crisis amongst American children, and alarm bells as Mark Zuckerberg announces an ambitious goal to provide personal superintelligence to all. Is this the pathway to brain chipping? And despite 3% quarterly growth and no inflation, Jerome Powell leaves interest rates at 4.25 to 4.5% in the United States. Meanwhile, Australia is anticipating a cut next week, and their rates are at 3.85%. Meanwhile, Jimmy Hoffa's son has asked President Trump to release the FBI files on his father, and Canada has joined a growing list, including Australia and New Zealand, to recognise Palestine as a state at the UN General Assembly in September. Well, in our lead story today, we have learnt that there is some form of backlash from the experts, they say, will create more risk, not less, as the warning after the YouTube was added to the social media ban for under 16s here in Australia. So what we've heard is that from this fellow, Daniel Angus, and he works for the Queensland University of Technology, he said it was rushed, vague and politically motivated. It could achieve the opposite of what the government ban is intended to do, alienating young users rather than meaningfully protecting them. Meanwhile, another academic, Dr. Catherine Page Jeffrey, has said that the main concern with YouTube is that the algorithms that recommend new videos to users are opaque. And we know that YouTube's recommendation system has served content that is sexually explicit and otherwise distressing to young viewers. Yet including it in the ban will not necessarily preclude this. Dr. Jeffrey disagreed with both YouTube's inclusion in the ban and the legislation more broadly, stressed the important role the platform plays in the digital lives of teenagers for education, entertainment, information and community. Sure, there are risks, she said, but the approach to mitigating these risks should not be excluding young people from these platforms altogether. Meanwhile, on this show, we showed in great detail yesterday what happened in the Senate when Senator Ralph Babet raised an urgent motion which was designed to stop this blanket approach to be able to want to include everyone to prove that they're over the age of 16. Well, Senator Babet has gone a step further, and in the Senate today, we're hoping to get an outcome as soon as possible. He has gone in with a motion for the E-Safety Commissioner inquiry. What he's asking for alongside Senator Roberts is to move that the following matter be referred to the Environment and Communications References Committee for inquiry and report by the 31st of October 2025, that the Internet Search Engine Services Online Safety Code, with particular reference to the heads of authority provided by the Online Safety Act 2021 for each provision of the code, the scope and accountability for the E-Safety Commissioner in administering the Act, including the development of industry codes and standards, ensuring there are appropriate parliamentary oversight and scrutiny mechanisms for industry codes and standards, and the operation of similar legislation in the UK and Europe as it relates to freedom of speech and freedom of the press, and of course any other related matters. Now, interestingly there, of course, is that what we have learnt is that Senator Maria Kovacic also came out in favour or support here, saying that there wasn't enough parliamentary scrutiny going on, and so this is crucial to see what's happening in terms of a regard action, if you will, against the E-Safety Commissioner, seeing this carte blanche and a government willing to go along with absolutely everything in this case under the guise of safety. When we realised that 12-year-olds 4 years ago could take an experimental jab without their parents' knowledge as a mature minor, but the same child 4 years later at 15 years and 11 months can't have a YouTube account, yeah, it doesn't quite add up, does it? So, and of course at school, try and get a Panadol from your teacher when you've got a headache and you are soundly rejected. You can't do that. But then again, if you wanted to have a gender inquiry and change that, no problem. It's the inconsistency which makes it hypocritical. And that's where I think we will see the traction coming in, where the Greens, along with the Liberals, supported Senator Babet's inquiry in motion yesterday and calls for an inquiry today. Well, meanwhile, in other news, we've also learned that Kash Patel over in the US, he has discovered documents to the Russia probe inside burn bags in a secret room at the FBI. This is a huge story because it would be assumed, therefore, that it's being hidden, and this leads to the Durham Annex. So what we've now learned is that John Durham has come out and explained in this couple of clips I'm going to present to you now what his expectation is at this point in terms of the annex being released of the Durham Report, classified intel, and how that will be released.
Is it your belief that the Durham Annex would show that FBI officials knew the Clinton campaign planned this all along?
Not only that, Sean, the Clinton Annex is going to show there was foreign intelligence. A foreign enemy had determined that the FBI had agreed to be the accelerant, that they were going to be conspirators joining with Hillary Clinton to give credence to her fake narrative. And that's exactly what happened. When people see what the foreign intelligence is and then how the FBI acted, it matches extremely closely. This is a bombshell Senator Grassley is going to release as early as tomorrow.
Wow, there you go. So we'll keep an eye out for that one. And of course, many people thinking, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. This is a process. So how does this process work? And who is able to deliver information that eventually will realize that this is a train going in one direction only? Well, the President of the United States, on his Truth Social account, he's posted this: "Be calm in the storm. We knew this day would come," along with some more posts, including this one: "Treason. Evidence proves both the FBI and CIA were deeply involved in the historic 2020 election lie that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian propaganda. Retruth if you want these criminals brought to justice." And let's take another one. Look at that. It's time to indict Obama the traitor for treason. And one more from Trump: "Until this happens, nothing will change." And you can see some very big names in there: Obama, Clapper, Clinton, Podesta, Eric Holder, Peter Strzok, Jim Comey, Lisa Page, Rod Rosenstein, Christopher Steele, John Brennan, and even Loretta Lynch, the other Attorney General. Apologies for that. I'm trying to read behind the pictures there. They were all big names involved in what's going on there. This is staggering information. Well, let's go a step further, because John Solomon is now addressing Obama and presidential immunity and how it may well be a trap for Obama.
I know President Trump has every right to be frustrated with him. I think President Trump's analysis last week was right. I think my immunity rule might protect him on the original charges. That's what most legal experts tell me, that ruling is so sweeping it will protect Obama for what he did in office. However, Barack Obama can now be summoned before a grand jury. He cannot take the Fifth Amendment because he has immunity from prosecution. He'll have to tell the truth. If he lies as a private citizen about what he did as president, he'll no longer have that immunity. And that is a trap that Obama is sitting potentially facing. And I want to say the irony to that, because on January 5th, 2017, he presided over a meeting in the White House where the FBI had just cleared Mike Flynn of any wrongdoing, and they schemed in that meeting how they might be able to jam up Mike Flynn. And they came up with the idea, we'll lure him into an interview, catch him into a lie, and then prosecute him that way. Barack Obama now is about to face a potential similar situation as the one he created unfairly for Mike Flynn.
Now, many people thought that Al Capone would be caught for his criminal activities and was taken out for tax evasion. So it's a strategy and it's a game. And a lot of people were all hoping for the ultimate truth to come out. But at the end of the day, it is an information war. Crimes have been committed, and we are working towards a one-time only chance to create real change. But at the same time, the world needs to be woken up to what's going on to understand the process. Now, there was some criticism on the comments on the page yesterday on Substack, and I welcome and appreciate what people are saying. And I do read what's going on there, except for the crazy stuff that doesn't need to be responded to. However, people were telling me that RFK Jr. can't be trusted because Dr. Naomi Wolf called him out because of a Moderna approval. Now, again, this is a process. Now, we do know that Marty Makary and Jay Bhattacharya and RFK Jr. came out and got rid of the COVID jab for healthy under 18s. Again, this is a process, and of course it's voluntary. And there are people, zealots, that will take it no matter what. And we've seen people like Peter Hotez recommending after people keep catching COVID, but the reason that you did was you didn't keep taking your boosters, which we know can't possibly add up. So where I'm going now is that Marty Makary was out today and he was talking about another project that Maha has been on about, and that is about ultra-processed foods and redesigning the food pyramid.
Now your focus will be on ultra-processed foods. I don't know what an ultra-processed food is, but I'd like you to define it if you could.
Yeah, so we're going to define ultra-processed so that we can help educate the public about it. The food pyramid left out ultra-processed food, which is now 70% of the diet of children. It didn't matter how you got your grains. It didn't matter if it was stripped of fiber and chopped up and functioned like sugar. The food pyramid was blind to ultra-processed foods. The FDA now has a proposal out where public comment can help us define this in a way that distinguishes it from processed food, right? Because processed food may just be cutting up a cucumber or canning a food. We're specifically worried about ultra-processed, loaded with chemicals, designed to be addictive, does not have nutritional value. That? And so that...
Well, probably there, in the Skittles.
Yeah, when you have, by the way, thank you to the Skittles maker for removing titanium dioxide and announcing their work on our petroleum food dye ban. We're seeing incremental improvements, but we're rewriting the entire food pyramid of dietary guidelines. We're ending the 50-year war on saturated fat, and we're going to make it based on science, not based on what the food companies want.
So Dana and I...
So there you go. That is a process that all parents in the United States, a country that is the home of junk food, will be made aware of, and this will permeate into schools, and people will realize that eating food out of a packet, well, you know what, if that's all you've done your whole life and it's seen on TV, people do need to be, well, reprogrammed, if you will, re-educated and understood what's going on. So you have to work and re-establish trust in the institutions, but you can't just switch it in the moment. So patience, of course, is a virtue. Meanwhile, here in Australia, at news.com.au today, look at this, dark spots, COVID jab tied to rare health symptom. A rare side effect from COVID-19 vaccines has caught the attention of health experts after a number of people reported unusual symptoms. I do find it odd, though, that there are certain side effects that capture the attention of the media and others don't. But in this story, we learned that this rare side effect between January 21 and 23, 20 peer-reviewed studies looked into eye problems reported by 243 people aged 18 to 84 who had received COVID jabs. Almost half of the patients, 42%, had taken the Pfizer-BioNTech jab, which was the main jab rolled out in Australia, US and UK and much of Europe. What jumps out is inflammation, they argue. Nearly half of the patients reported experiencing ocular inflammatory conditions such as uveitis and irritation deep inside the eye. Another 24% said they would have suffered optic neuritis, a swelling of the optic nerve that can cause pain and threaten vision. Herpetic eye disease caused by the herpes virus attacking the eye showed up in 14% of cases, triggering redness, pain and discomfort, and about 10% documented retinal circulation issues, blockages in the eye's arteries or veins that can trigger sudden vision loss. And there were a few rare cases where patients were known to exhibit retina-related problems causing dark spots or blind patches. So again, it sounds minimal. 243 people, 6 or 7 different eye conditions, and so what? Aren't we talking about things like heart attacks and stroke, etc.? So what happens is there's going to be, or there will be, a build-up of little stories adding up. And then suddenly what will happen is they will look for the link. And of course, the link will be the spike protein that is getting into all of these places, that is aggravating these parts of the body, organs, eyes, etc., hearts, lungs, and that's when the big catch-up will occur. I know it's painful, but this is the purpose of what we are doing. We are bringing people to the table, and that was exhibited in our lead story today, where Senator Ralph Babet was able to unite the Liberals and the Greens in the case of the YouTube ban, where overreach meant that no longer can YouTube or the social media companies require identification for someone to be confirmed whether they are over or under the age of 16. They need to come up with another way. If Ralph doesn't run that yesterday, we're in a very different position. So there you go. Small victories become big victories, and from little things, big things grow. So up next, I want to show you something to lighten the mood. This is for all of us who have lived through the last 5 years and are saying, hurry up.
Hey, did you see that special on Channel 7 where they talked about all the problems with the vaccines? What are you talking about, mate? I told you about all that stuff like 4 years ago. Yeah, but back then it was just a conspiracy theory. Yeah, but if you're finding out now that it's pretty much true, then how can it be a conspiracy theory? Well, back then it was just people talking about it, but now it's been on TV. So you only believe stuff if it's on TV. Is that what you're saying? Look, all I know is that those things were no good. I knew it 4 years ago and I tried to tell you. Yeah, but they never said that on TV. Bro, you need to get rid of your TV once and for all. If I turn my TV off, then how am I going to find stuff out? Well, you can just do your own research, eh? No, that's too hard.
How about that, huh? A little bit of fun, but so true. And that is the frustration about what is going on for all of us as we wait patiently for change. Now, Nancy Pelosi, I know, one of your favourites. Nancy Pelosi has been, well, question how it is you can work in a job paying $100,000 to $200,000 over her career and a massive fortune in the hundreds of millions. So Donald Trump started it today where he made the inquiry that perhaps Nancy Pelosi and others, well, is there a connection to insider trading?
You know, Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband, and I think that's disgraceful. So in that sense, I'd like it, but I'd have to really see I study these things very carefully, and this just happened. So I'll take a look at it. But conceptually, I like it. And what I do think is Nancy Pelosi should be investigated because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few. How did that happen? It happened by she knows exactly what's going to happen, what's going to be announced. She buys stock, and then the stock goes up after the announcement's made. And she ought to be investigated.
So, next up, Nancy Pelosi was invited on to CNN's Jake Tapper. And, well, she was railroaded, if you will, showing you that CNN now are being forced to ask the questions.
So Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider.
Well, them's fighting words, Nancy. Backpedaling, if you wouldn't believe it. Jake Tapper striving for some form of legitimacy. He has to ask the questions, and Nancy's dancing all around it. So the next thing that we learnt was that Josh Hawley apparently was going to side with the Democrats to block such a bill passing. And Donald Trump, well, he got quite aggressive, as he normally does, and called Josh Hawley out. Well, about an hour and a half later, Josh Hawley was on Jesse Waters with a big change of tune, not just calling for an investigation, but prosecution. Have a look.
I had a good chat with the president earlier this evening, and he reiterated to me he wants to see a ban on stock trading by people like Nancy Pelosi and members of Congress, which is what we passed today. I think it is absolutely vital we put a stop to this. Pelosi shouldn't just be investigated. She should be prosecuted. And we need to make what she is doing and other members of Congress is doing illegal. I mean, you shouldn't be able to go up to Congress and get rich by trading on information that only you have and not members of the public. Right now, lots of members of Congress are getting by with it. We need to make the whole thing illegal.
So when you spoke to the president, did he explain why he called you second tier?
Well, I think that the president, a number of people who are opposed to banning stock trading had said to the president that he would be covered by the bill. He'd have to sell Mar-a-Lago and sell assets. Not the case at all. The president and the vice president, all their assets are totally exempted. And here's the point. This is what we talked about. The point of this bill is to ban members of Congress from trading on the information that only they have. I've supported this bill for years, Jesse. I think we call it the Pelosi Act. It is named for her because she is the poster child of this kind of behavior. It ought to be illegal and it ought to be prosecutable.
So what Pelosi will say is that she doesn't manage any money. Her husband manages the money. Her husband makes the trades, and she has nothing to do with it. Does this bill have a loophole that she can exploit again?
Yeah, no, in fact, this bill will cover not only her, it will cover her husband. And the point is we need to make it illegal for people to do this kind of thing. 86% of Americans look at stock trading by members of the Congress and they say, we ought to ban that. They can't believe it's not been banned already. Nobody should be up in Congress making a quick buck day trading when they should be doing the people's business. The president wants a stock trading ban. I want a stock trading ban. It's time to get it done.
All right.
Meanwhile, Canada is joining a long procession of countries to recognise Palestine at the UN General Assembly, joining France and the UK in the push for the new state, joining New Zealand and Australia, who were signatories to a declaration that indicates they could follow the suit in the coming months. So Canada's plans follow those announcements. The signatories also include Andorra, Finland, Luxembourg, Portugal, San Marino, each of which is not recognised an independent Palestinian state, including also Iceland, Ireland, Malta, Norway, Slovenia and Spain, which have. And this is a really interesting story that's developing because now there's some sides being drawn here, and you'll see that the globalists are supporting Palestine and the nationalists are not. So what's really going on here behind the scenes? Will there be some form of twist in the plot about saving Israel for last? Could it be that Netanyahu holds a trump card, if you will? Now, put that whichever way it may. But the Epstein files are literally driving everyone crazy. Here's Susan Rice. The Trump administration's ongoing lies about the intelligence assessment that Russia interfered in the 2016 election thoroughly debunked. It's a shameless, dishonest, defamatory scheme to distract from Epstein, and Epstein. The more people I speak to out there in the real world are telling me they do not believe the Epstein story. We've now learnt possibly that 1 minute of video from the Epstein prison could have been found. And is that the pathway to the biggest plot twist in all of history, as everyone is screaming for that information? Wait and see. There's no way that this is not going to go and Epstein's going to clog the system when the dam is going to break. Meanwhile, there's a lot of news to report as well, because we've now learned that Kamala Harris is out. She will not be running for governor of California. No, she's not going to do it, which kind of leaves it open whether she might want to run for president. Well, now people are saying that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez may be coming and having a shot for the presidency in 2028. We'll have to watch this space. Meanwhile, Mark Zuckerberg, in a newly released video that's quite disturbing, he's telling us about his plans to create superintelligence for all of us. Have a look.
All right, you ready? Hey, everyone. I want to talk about our new effort, Meta Superintelligence Labs, and our vision to build personal superintelligence for everyone. AI keeps accelerating, and over the past few months, we've begun to see glimpses of AI systems improving themselves. So developing superintelligence is now in sight. But there's this big open question about what we should direct superintelligence towards. A lot has been written about the scientific and economic advances that AI can bring, and I'm really optimistic about this. But I think an even more meaningful impact in our lives is going to come from everyone having a personal superintelligence that helps you achieve your goals, create what you want to see in the world, be a better friend, and grow to become the person that you aspire to be. This vision is different from others in the industry who want to direct AI at automating all of the valuable work. At Meta, we believe in putting the power of superintelligence in people's hands to direct it towards what they value in their own lives. Some of this will be about improving productivity, but a lot of it may be more personal in nature. This is going to be a new era in some ways, but In others, it's just a continuation of historical trends. About 200 years ago, 90% of people were farmers growing food to survive. Today, fewer than 2% grow all of our food. Advances in technology have freed much of humanity to focus less on subsistence and more on the pursuits that we choose. And at each step along the way, most people have decided to use their newfound productivity to spend more time on creativity, culture, relationships, and just enjoying life. And I expect superintelligence to accelerate this trend even more. The intersection of technology and culture is where Meta focuses, and this will only become more important over time. If trends continue, I expect that people will spend less time on productivity software and more time creating and connecting. I think that personal devices like glasses that can see what we see, hear what we hear, and interact with us throughout the day are going to become our main computing devices. I believe deeply in building personal superintelligence for everyone. And at Meta, we have the resources to build the massive infrastructure required and the ability to deliver new technology to billions of people. I am excited to build this future, and we've got a lot more to come soon.
I don't know about you, but I feel like I need to take a Maxilon after listening to that one. One step away from a chip in the arm or the head. It just doesn't feel right, does it? Zuckerberg, the chief censor and servant to the deep state, is the last person that I want to be delivering anything in form of intelligence to the masses, but we are up against that. Well, also in economics, we've learnt that the US, Jerome Powell, has once again not dropped interest rates. Play a quick clip and give you some of the benefits of what's happening in the US economy, where tariffs are meant to be the enemy. Are they?
Up 3%, up 3%, better than expected. That would be the highest level since the third quarter of 24, when it was up 3.1%. On the consumption side, up 1.4, very close to estimates. Up 1.4 would be the best since the last quarter of 24.
How about that, huh? So they're flying 3% growth in a quarter is absolutely massive. Inflation not going anywhere. It's virtually nothing. So why won't Jerome Powell drop the interest rates?
I'm looking at the Fed funds are predicting 63% chance that there's a cut in September.
In September, so that's Kudlow scenario. What's the stock market doing? I can't
Just nothing.
Yeah, this is not a huge surprise. This is not a huge surprise.
It's up a little bit.
2 dissents, the first time in 30-something years. That's not to be scoffed at, okay? That's not to be. And if I were Jay Powell, Mr. Chairman, I would not be proud of that.
As I used to say this on the trade desk, sharply unchanged.
Okay, sharply unchanged.
I always love when I can get Larry to laugh.
Me too.
Especially on a day like this. Larry, always good to have you. Thank you so much.
Great.
We're anticipating a live event in New York City.
It has nothing to do with the Fed, but your coverage of this horrible tragedy.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Amen.
Trace Gallagher.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that. Always.
Incredible, isn't it? So they're going after Jerome Powell, and the idea is let people refinance their homes, drop the interest rates, because in the United States, you can fix your interest rate for 30 years. And some people were lucky to do that during COVID and fix their rates for the lifetime of their loan in the 2 percentile range, which would be just astonishing for anyone to be able to get that level of value. Now, we've also learnt the son of Jimmy Hoffa is calling on President Trump to release the FBI files in relation to his father, Jimmy Hoffa, of course, the great big Teamster unionist who was taken out, and many believe by obviously his enemies, because his body has never been recovered. The family's still struggling for closure, and in a very revealing interview, which we'll hold over to tomorrow for you, reveals who Jimmy Hoffa's son believes actually killed his father. And so the mystery and the plot thickens, because people now see that Donald Trump is the transparent president. Whether you like that or not, it seems to be the case. Now, we will conclude today's show with a vote of confidence, really, for what is going on, because next week we should see interest rates come down in Australia, which will give everyone a little bit of a helping hand. Inflation is at its lowest level since COVID, and we look forward to the up and up, and we will reach out to Senator Ralph Babet's team to see if we can get an update on what happened with the inquiry motion going through Parliament today, and we'll bring that to you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. This is Channel 51 News. You can also find us on jasonqcitizen.substack.com. and JasonQCitizen1 on X. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.